Hello, I'm Lauren.
I'm Jess.
And Jess is a bit delirious today.
Oh, everyone, do you know what? Happy Wednesday. For us, it's Tuesday, and it's been a long week.
And it's only Tuesday.
I know. That's how it feels, though. I feel like when you start a new year, it's always like you're so looking forward to all these awesome things that are coming and awesome things that are happening. But time still goes by so quickly, and then you're just tired, and I'm just tired.
I'm just tired.
I'm just tired.
I'm just a baby.
Yeah, I am. But it's good to be here with everybody. I hope everyone's having a fabulous start to their Wednesday. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it's through your podcast streaming platform or whether it's on Joy and you're joining us there, because we're on Joy for another season. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Brand new time.
Brand new time, 9 p.m. Wednesdays. And this is...
Oh, brand new day.
Yes. Brand new day as well. And this is later information. Like, we should have given this to you a lot earlier, but we didn't.
Because once again...
Behind the eight ball.
Behind the eight ball.
Jess and Lauren behind the eight ball. But that's okay because it's fun and we're all having a good time. We're just tired.
Oh, we're just tired. Do you know what I love also? We don't get to see each other as much anymore. So these podcast little sessions are like our quality date night times.
This is date night right now.
This is our date night with hundreds of other listeners.
We've had dinner. We've put some makeup on to look some nice.
Some nice.
I can't even English.
You can't even English. Somewhat of decency.
So that's why Lauren is running this episode today.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. I am going to sit back and listen to all the hard work that Lauren has done with the rest of you because we've got some education happening.
We love education on this podcast.
Jokes aside, I do.
I know. I didn't think you were joking.
Okay, good. No, I wasn't joking. I love the learning aspect that we get to do together with everybody.
Yeah, with everybody. And I feel like the educational episodes, along with our worst first date episodes, which are such a nice contrast because they break up the heavy educational side of things.
Yeah. And I know on Joy it says, have fun with Jess and Lauren, but also some of the topics are not fun, everyone.
No.
Because, you know,
as queers, we come from oppression.
we've been ostracized for a long time. So not everything is rainbows and butterflies like we wish it could be because, you know, like we would love it to just be rainbows and butterflies. But sometimes the hard things are also worth learning about, as we all know. So
they are. And on that beautiful segue, I'm going to jump into this episode.
Yeah, do it. We won't bore you with chit chat. We're going to...
I think we've already done that.
We're going to build you up with some good education.
Wow. As Jess just said, you know we love an educational episode on this show and today's no exception.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite excited to share this topic with you. We kind of discussed a few different topics that you and I would both research, but I know you've been super busy editing another episode, which is also why you're tired.
Yeah, our episode a couple of weeks ago with Hannah Conda. Whoop, whoop. Love you, Hannah.
Love you, Hannah. So I'm super excited to share it with you and share it with everyone listening. You might already know from the episode title, but today we're diving into some of the most influential gay male couples in history.
This is exciting to me because we always talk about all the time how, you know, being gay is not a new thing.
No, it's not a new thing. It's been around for ages.
But people outside the community think we've just appeared all of a sudden. Like, what the fuck? We don't just appear out of nowhere.
So few appeared.
Yeah, so learning about where we've all come from is really nice to know, and those who have struggled before us and not had the support that we do have now. So it is good to learn.
Yeah, and it takes us back to understand the oppression that our ancestors fought for their rights.
Yeah.
And I say this with tentative terms because I know that our trans American brothers and sisters and LGBT brothers and sisters are
really
struggling
at the moment.
But to see where they have fought and stood up and have come out better and brighter and prouder on the other side. And I feel like we can do that again.
And right now we need to just keep fighting for the people in our community that are being hit the hardest with the bullshit that's going on. But yeah, we won't get too political.
Well, we might get a little bit political because some of these couples are in politics.
Oh, okay.
Essentially.
Well, then shoot me.
But some of our homegrown couples.
Did we have some here? Of course we did.
And all around the world. These are the love stories that shaped literature, politics, activism, and arts.
Yeah, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
And let's be real, LGBTQ plus history hasn't always been well documented.
No, because no one wanted to know about it. It was lips are sealed.
Or properly celebrated. And I guess that's why we are here to spread the word.
Yes.
Not only to educate others, but also ourselves.
Yes, always.
So we're going to start with our very own homegrown legacies and Australian trailblazers. And with that, we have to start with one of Australia's most heartbreaking yet powerful love stories. Mm-hmm. That is the love story of Timothy Congreve and John Callio.
Because, you know, in our episode that we did with Mark, he talked about Tim Congreve.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And holding the man. Spoiler, everyone. That's what this part's about. But continue. Sorry, I'm not trying to steal your thunder.
Sure. Well, as Jess just said, if you don't know who these two are, you certainly know of the love story or movie called Holding the Man.
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah, if you had listened to Mark's episode, you would have heard that. I'm pretty sure even in, I'm not sure whether it was Australian RuPaul's Drag Race or American RuPaul's Drag Race or RuPaul himself that speaks about the movie Holding the Man.
Well, there's a lot of weight behind that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of weight and a lot of references to it. Mm-hmm. So their love story deeply impacted the Australian LGBTQIA plus community.
The Australian
LGBTQA.
Thanks for that one, Steph. If you haven't listened to Steph's episode,
please go back and listen.
Steph has made the acronym sound very French and very posh.
Very fancy.
So now we've adapted Steph's French posh way of doing things and we call the LGBTQIA plus the LGBTQA.
Ooh, I love it.
I do love it. That's why I'm adapting it. Steph should TM that, just saying.
Yeah. Hey, Steph, TM that. If we go back in time, and for those who didn't know, because I certainly didn't, Timothy and John met when they were teenagers, when they both attended an all-boys college Catholic school in the 1970s in Melbourne.
Wow.
I do have the name there, but I'm not going to say it out of, I don't want to get sued.
The defamation might come.
Yeah, I don't want to get sued.
But it starts with an X, everyone, and if you want to look it up and do your own research.
So funny story before I actually get into their story is when I was researching this, it took me back because I was like, hang on, I know the name of this school.
Well, you grew up in Melbourne.
I grew up in Melbourne, but so my auntie, I actually worked out that this was the school where she, because it's a boarding school, so this was the school where she was like the maitre d'.
Wow.
So she got to know all the boys in that.
You've got some family ties.
I do.
Wow.
She got to know all the boys in the college and
you've got some queer family ties.
Speak with them. I do. It was really fascinating to me.
But see, these are those facets of learning about history that you become so deeply connected to because you find out that you actually have connection.
Yeah. I was like, hang on a second.
I joke a lot about the fact that I don't give two shits about genealogy. Like all of our friends are like, don't you ever want to do DNA and find it? And I'm like, nope, I don't care where I came from. But that's in terms of me and genealogy. In terms of learning.
But finding out cool historical facts about yourself that you didn't know that then relates to the community and the topic that we're talking about. That's what I mean. I remember when I researched this, that was the first thing I came running to you and I was like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah.
My auntie. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
All right. John was the star football player, handsome, popular, and athletic.
And probably not typically gay in that era.
Yeah.
Not typically gay in this era. What am I talking about?
Yeah, I was going to say.
We still have all these stereotypes. Okay.
That's what it is. It's the stereotype. Tim was a theatre kid, artistic, and outspoken.
Aw.
That's cute. That's a cute little love story.
That's you.
Yeah. They were the definition of opposites attract, and even though they were opposites, their love was undeniable. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's kind of like us. Cute.
We are cute.
We are cute. Tim and John fell in love in high school, despite the incredible stigma surrounding same-sex couples at the time. However, this was no high school fling. The couple were together for over 15 years. Together they endured family opposition, long distances, and the struggles that came with being an openly gay couple in a very conservative Australia. This is only the 1970s.
It was still criminalised in the 90s. We know this. We've been there. So, of course, it was very conservative Australia.
Yeah. You might ask, if they had such an epic love story, why did it only last 15 years?
Because it's what happened in those 15 years, everyone.
Yeah. That is because, unfortunately, in the 1980s, both Tim and John were diagnosed with the HIV/AIDS virus, which was a devastating reality for many of those in the LGBTQIA plus community at the time.
Yeah.
So sad.
It is. It's one of those things that, you know, without education of knowing how things spread, we can't do anything to protect ourselves or prevent it.
You saw the same thing happen with COVID.
Literally
with COVID. Everything comes down to the media and the propaganda. So it all stems from that.
Look at all the people we've spoken to that suffered through the misinformation and the propaganda, and how all the misinformation created this terrible time for everybody.
Literally.
Yeah.
John unfortunately passed away in 1992. Well, that's a year before I was born.
It's a year after I was born.
From an AIDS-related complication.
Which is usually like something to do with respiratory, I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
Yeah.
Or like pneumonia. I guess that's also a respiratory thing.
I think a lot of the things that came with AIDS or AIDS-related was...
Well, your immune system is gone.
Yeah, essentially. And you become open to other airborne things that, you wouldn't typically be. Yeah.
Whilst Tim was battling with his illness as well and being heartbroken from the passing of John, poured his heart and soul and grief into his memoir, Holding the Man. The memoir became one of Australia's most important and influential LGBTQIA+ works. Tragically, Tim passed away just 10 days after finishing the book.
Wow, 10 days. I'm so glad he wrote the story.
Yeah. Their love story has now become immortalised as Holding the Man, and it was adapted for the stage in 2006 and then adapted for the big screens in 2015.
You know, this is what is so important for everyone listening. We all have a story and it is worth telling.
Yeah.
That's why we have so many interviews on this podcast, because your story can influence somebody else in such a positive way, even if your story has negative parts to it. And it can immortalize the parts of you that you want to share with the world in such an amazing way.
In such a positive way. And the fact that now their love story literally lives on forever after they lived through a world where them being in a queer relationship was so oppressed and stigmatized against.
Yeah, and it's kind of like in the afterlife, we can all celebrate them.
Yeah.
And the steps that they helped make for the next generation of people.
Exactly.
So
and we still talk about it today.
Yeah, well, we're talking about it right
now. Yeah. This is where we're going to get a little bit political.
Okay.
Our next couple is that of Bob Brown. That's a great name. And Paul Thomas.
Not as good as Bob Down.
Bob Brown and Paul Thomas are a prominent Australian couple known for their environmental activism and contributions to conservation efforts. Bob Brown was born on December 27, 1944, in Oberon, New South Wales. I don't know if I said that right.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. It's in Australia, so it's probably Australian accented anyway. Oberon.
Yeah. Ron. He initially trained as a medical doctor before transitioning into environmental activism and politics. His activism gained national attention in the early 1980s when he played a crucial role in the Franklin River campaign, which successfully stopped a dam from being built in Tasmania's pristine wilderness.
Wow.
In 1983, he was elected to the Tasmanian House of Assembly as the first openly gay member of Australian Parliament. He later became the leader of the Australian Greens and served as a senator for Tasmania from 1996 to 2012. His leadership helped shape the Greens into a significant political force in Australia. Brown's election as an openly gay politician was groundbreaking, but also meant he faced hostility, particularly from more conservative politicians and media outlets.
Yeah, no shit.
His visibility as an openly gay politician and his long-term relationship with Paul Thomas helped challenge stereotypes and shift public opinion.
Do you know, I just think how brave it was for people to live their true selves openly in a time where it wasn't accepted.
Literally.
I don't think that I could have done that. So honestly,
Bravo.
I have so much admiration for that.
Same. And especially as you're reading this, Paul Thomas and Bob Brown being involved in politics, especially back then at a time where it's so...
I feel like I'm not going to speak on behalf of you, but I feel like I personally am still so careful about who I talk openly about myself too.
100%. So, I am very careful about who I openly
imagine
talk.
coming up against people in Parliament. Oh my God. Like you are literally up against the government. Hats off. Hats off.
Hats off. Exactly. And living your open truth in Parliament. Good on ya. Paul Thomas is a former farmer who has largely remained out of the political spotlight, but is deeply involved in the conservation work. Unlike Brown, Thomas prefers a more private role in their activism, supporting their shared causes and contributing behind the scenes. His love for nature and sustainable farming practices has influenced the joint environmental efforts. Brown and Thomas met in 1996 and quickly formed a deep connection. They have spent decades working together on environmental projects, advocating for the protection of forests, rivers, and marine life. Their partnership is marked by a mutual support and a shared love for adventure and conservation. One of their most significant contributions is the Bob Brown Foundation, which they founded to campaign for environmental protection, particularly in Tasmania. The foundation has led efforts against deforestation, mining, and other threats to Australia's natural landscapes.
Well, do you know, one big part about a very positive love story is just finding someone that has the same values as you, and that was clearly them.
Yeah, and I think my favourite part about researching this was not only finding out about all the couples, because then I went and had to Google search what they looked like.
Oh, yeah, and you put like a face to the name.
I got to put all the faces,
yeah,
and I was like, that's so cute. So I think maybe, I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I think maybe at the end I might send through a bunch of photos for you to put on the little
oh, yeah, okay, yeah, do it.
Show notes and stuff. In 2015, Brown and Thomas co-authored Green Nomads Wild Places, a book that documents their 3-month journey across remote parts of Australia. The book features breathtaking photography taken by Thomas and poetic reflections by Brown, showcasing their deep appreciation for the wilderness. The book is much more than a travelogue. It serves as a call for action to the conservation and celebration of Australia's natural beauty. Their travels, often in a camper van, symbolise their philosophy of living simply and in harmony with nature.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Brown and Paul Thomas's relationship is built on a foundation of activism, love for the environment, and a commitment to each other, which
So
you kind of
cute.
said that anyways.
Yeah.
Though Brown is more the public figure, Thomas plays a crucial role in their shared mission. Their legacy continues through their conservation work, political advocacy, and storytelling that inspires future generations of environmentalists.
Wow. Are they still both alive?
Yeah.
Wow. That's so good.
Which is really cute. And that's why I said to you, I saw their photos and I was like,
Yeah.
cute. Despite the challenges, Brown remained openly proud of his identity and never shied away from speaking about his relationship with Thomas. Today, he is recognised as a pioneer for the LGBTQIA+ representation in Australian politics.
Yay.
Woo! His resilience helped pave the way for more LGBTQIA+ politicians in Australia.
Yeah. Well, when just off the top of my head, like Penny Wong is LGBTQIA+. She's probably the only one I know.
I think she's the only one I know. I don't know
Yeah.
who else, but we don't spend a lot of time in politics.
No, that's true.
One thing that I didn't actually put on here that was interesting to me was that he was never against the legalization of LGBTQIA+ marriage in 2017. But I think because he came from such a world of oppression, he didn't want to be the voice of it and be involved in it.
Who's this? Bob Brown.
Bob Brown.
Yeah, I can see. See, this is that push and pull, right? Where we've discussed this briefly before, where you might have a set of beliefs that obviously we are all human and we deserve human rights and equality is amazing, but you don't want to feel like you're adding to part of the reason people dislike you.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't want to then be like pride flags in people's faces, and that's one of the reasons they dislike the community. So you don't want to add to that, you know? It's kind of like, can't we just have that mutual respect and we have the same rights and equality and all these nice things that we should be able to have and not have to think about that.
Yeah, and I think that, again, that was the same thing that I kind of read. It was at first he didn't want to be involved, but he's like, I've been trying to make a change in politics and in Australian...
He was kind of doing it behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So now he's like, well, I'm clearly all for it.
Yeah, well, sometimes, like, it's scary to be a front runner.
Yeah.
Because you get blamed for everything. I understand it completely.
Exactly. Ugh. We are now going to talk about love in the Australian legal world.
Ooh.
This was such a fun episode to just research.
Where are history nuts out there? You loving this?
Yeah. I am, of course, talking about Michael Kirby and Johan van Vloten.
I'm glad you said that because I'm reading that and I was like, Johan van Vloten.
I thought you were going to say John.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's, yeah. No.
So, Johan van Vloten. So, who is Michael Kirby and Johan van Vloten?
You're about to tell us.
I am. Michael Kirby is a highly respected Australian jurist, former High Court Justice. So for people who don't know what a High Court Justice is, that is a judge.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't know.
Didn't you?
High Court Justice, I'm like, okay, they work in the court, but yeah.
No, it's
judge.
It's okay. A judge.
That's good.
And a prominent advocate for human rights, particularly in the LGBTQIA+
because
space.
One of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Born in 1939.
Wow, my gran was born in 1939.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think.
I don't know.
I could be
Your mum will tell you.
Could be telling porkies. Yeah, my mum will listen to this episode and be like, no, she wasn't.
Yeah. He served on the High Court of Australia from 1996 to 2009 and has been widely recognised for his progressive views and commitment to justice.
Betcha he also had a lot to go up against as well.
Oh,
with that.
I'm sure. He has also worked internationally on human rights issues, including leading a UN inquiry into human rights violations in North Korea.
Wow. Man, so many people don't even have basic human rights in North Korea, so that is insane.
Yeah, that's a heavy one. And Johan van Vloten is a Dutch-born Australian who has been Kirby's lifelong partner.
I love hearing lifelong partner.
Me too.
It's
so cute.
Brings such a warmness into my body.
Yeah, it's such a nice little joy saying.
Mm-hmm.
While he has largely remained out of public spotlight, he has been a steadfast presence in Kirby's life and career.
Complete support system.
Yeah, I love that. Kirby and Van Vloten met in 1969, long before homosexuality was decriminalised in Australia.
About 30 years, everyone.
Really?
Yeah, well, 1997, Tasmania was the last state.
Oh, that's right. I forget what episodes we've talked about things. Despite the challenges of the time, they built a strong and enduring relationship. For decades, their partnership remained private, with Kirby only publicly acknowledging their relationship in 1999.
2 years after it was decriminalised in Australia. Wow.
When he listed Van Vloten as his long-term partner in Who's Who in Australia.
Wow.
I don't know what Who's Who is.
I think Who's Who in Australia...
Is it a magazine or
yeah.
a TV thing? Or?
Well, I think it was like the Who's Who of Australia, like who did the leading things. It was like you needed to know these specific people for these specific reasons.
Yeah. As you just said, this was a significant moment as it was one of the first times a high-profile legal figure in Australia openly discussed their same-sex relationship. Their love story is incredible. They've been together for over 50 years.
Wow.
Think about that. That's crazy.
That's half a century.
And they were together before homosexuality was even decriminalised in Australia.
Called it. See, I know my history. I've learnt from our episodes.
You have. Their love story is often cited as an example of enduring commitment and the fight for the LGBTQIA+ rights in Australia. Kirby has frequently spoken out about the importance of love, acceptance and equality, using his platform to push for same-sex marriage, which was finally legalised in Australia in 2017.
Way
too late.
Yeah, took way longer than it needed to, everyone.
Yeah. Their relationship remains a symbol of resilience, love and progress in Australia's LGBTQIA+ history.
I think I'm going to say this a lot in this episode, but especially because we're going to move international now, aren't we?
We are going to go across the pond soon.
I just want to say, because you've started with these 3 Australian couples, how proud I am of them to be so open and have this unwavering bravery.
Yeah, such bravery and confidence.
To be themselves in a time where that was so frowned upon.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it would have been absolutely terrifying. So
kudos.
Absolutely. That blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, as you said, we are now jumping across the pond and back in time with one of the most trailblazing and influential couples to date. Now let's go back to Victorian England for one of the most infamous love stories in the LGBTQIA+ history, and that is between Oscar Wilde and Lord Alfred Douglas, aka Bosie.
Wow.
Oscar Wilde was basically the rock star of his time.
Absolutely.
Already a well-known playwright, poet and writer. He had met Lord Alfred Douglas in 1891.
1891.
That's crazy. Douglas was an aristocratic poet and an undergraduate at Oxford. He was young, charming and reckless, and Wilde was immediately taken with him.
Yeah, I would be too. Young, charming and reckless.
That's funny though, because I'm not.
All the things you are.
I was I'm not young, charming or reckless. Well, I can be charming.
No, you are definitely charming.
I can be charming.
I think reckless is depends what you mean in a moment, because I feel like spontaneity can also be recklessness in a way.
Yeah.
And I feel like you were very spontaneous.
Yeah.
You got home from work this afternoon and I was like, we're taking the dogs for a walk. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, I do love a bit of spontaneity.
So, give yourself some credit.
I think it also comes to the fact that they were both writers in their field and and both artists and stuff. So
people that are on the same wavelength with each other, they just gel, vibe. You know?
Clearly. That's why they have a podcast called Just Gay Stuff.
Find your gel, find your vibe.
Yeah. Their relationship quickly became intense, with Wilde showering Bosie with gifts, fine dining, and luxurious getaways.
Well, Wilde was already pretty
he was the rock star.
Yeah. Well, he's not a rock star, but
he was the rock star of the time.
Yeah.
Douglas, who was spoiled and impulsive, both adored and manipulated Wilde, creating a dynamic of deep affection but also toxicity.
No, that's not what I wanted to hear.
Well, that's just...
I wanted trailblazing.
That's just history for you.
Give me the real Brokeback Mountain.
I did.
That was all
Australian couples? Oscar Wilde was originally married to a woman named Constance Lloyd in 1884. They had 2 children together, Cyril and Vivian Wilde. However, he found in Bosie a passionate muse and lover. The 2 frequented high society circles, but they also engaged in risky activities.
Yeah, no shit.
Including Wilde's involvement with male prostitutes, which Douglas encouraged. Douglas introduced Wilde to an underground world of London's gay subculture. But he also had a fiery temper and a sense of entitlement that would later contribute to Wilde's downfall. Despite their deep bond, their relationship was tumultuous, with frequent fights and reconciliations.
Oh, that's really not what I wanted to hear, eh?
No, but I feel like it would have been
it's the time.
That time, and it's that push and pull, like, oh, we'll fight now and we'll make up, and it'd be that passionate love.
Yeah,
and
it's like that, keep that fire.
Artist.
True to mean, keep them keen.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that in the 1800s where you can literally go to jail.
Yeah. During the late 19th century, homosexuality was illegal in Britain, and public exposure meant social ruin.
Well, Oscar Wilde went to prison, didn't he?
I'm getting there.
Okay. I mean, I know you're getting there. I'm just putting it right there.
Bosie's father, the Marquess of Queensberry, despised his son's relationship with Wilde and accused Wilde of being a sodomite. For those who don't know, sodomite is an old-fashioned and often a derogatory term historically used to refer to someone who engages in same-sex relationships, particularly that of men.
Is that because it derives from sodomy?
Well, I was about to actually say. It originates from a biblical reference to the city of Sodom, which was associated with the immoral behaviour in some religious interpretations. Today, the term is considered outdated and offensive, and is not commonly used in a respectful or modern discussion about sexuality.
Hold up. So, in religious circles, there was some sodomy happening.
Yeah.
And they thought it was okay to an extent.
Well,
hey.
They didn't actually. They thought that it was a place for immoral behaviour.
Yeah, but it's still, do you know what I mean?
Yes, it's still a part of the religion.
It still happened.
Still a part of the religical text. Yes, I do understand the thinking.
Okay, yeah.
I do get ya. What?
No, nothing. I'm just letting it sink in.
You're just letting it sink in that those people who are often against us also were referencing and having times of immoral behaviour.
Yeah, literally. Like the cherry picking of the Bible, you know? It's one of those things.
Can't cherry pick the Bible.
Oh, but they do.
I know.
Anyway, let's move on.
Moving on. Against the advice of his friends, Wilde sued the Marquess for libel and slander.
Mate, he is brazen.
He was brazen. Brazen, brave, stupid.
Yep.
Who knows? However, the trial backfired when the evidence of Wilde's affairs with men was revealed. Wilde was arrested in 1895 and was put on trial for gross indecency. The public turned against him and he was sentenced to 2 years of hard labour in prison. Douglas fled to Europe, avoiding legal trouble. What a dick.
Yeah, wow.
Left your lover in jail.
Do you know, this whole time, and this is why we do these episodes, this whole time I have completely known that Oscar Wilde
went to prison
for being gay, and I never knew why.
Yeah.
And so this is
now, here you go.
Guess what? Now I know why.
Now you know why. Now you have been educated.
So if it ever comes up at trivia, I will now have the answer.
If you remember. Here's the crazy fact. During Wilde's trial, he had the chance to flee England and avoid prison just like Douglas did, but he chose to stay, believing that love was worth the risk. Yet Douglas fled straight away.
Yeah, but Douglas was the gaslighter in this situation anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like Oscar was such a genuine person. He just knew what he wanted and he was willing to stand up and fight for his right.
Yeah.
He did his time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While in prison, Wilde wrote De Profundis, a long letter reflecting on his love for Douglas and the pain it caused him. When Wilde was released in 1897, the two briefly reunited in Naples, but were pressured to separate due to financial and social ruin. Wilde lived his final years in exile in France, impoverished and broken, dying in the 1900s.
Wow, that's so sad.
Yeah, this is even sadder. Douglas later renounced Wilde and became virulently homophobic despite his own past, even testifying against homosexuality in later trials. He lived a long but bitter life, dying in 1945.
Do you know what? Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that
Fuck
guy.
that guy so bad. He is
And
like...
not in a good way.
That is internal homophobia all the way. And he was like, oh, I got caught. I don't want to go to prison. I'm going to blame it all on the other guy. No.
Literally.
That sucks.
That does suck. It was sad. To this day, their relationship remains one of literature's most tragic romances.
I can understand why.
Yeah. Wilde's works, including The Picture of Dorian Gray, The Importance of Being Earnest, and De Profundis, continue to be celebrated. Their love story, though doomed, played a significant role in LGBTQIA+ history, exposing the harsh realities of persecution in a time when being gay was a crime.
Yeah.
Now, the last couple that I want to talk about, I was going to say tonight because we record at night time.
But you'll hear it today.
But you'll hear it today or
Or
whatever
on
day
Joy.
or night
You'll
or
hear
whatever,
it tonight.
whatever time you're listening to, is that of James Baldwin and, oh my God, I've got to try and say this name. Lucian Happersberger. Say that 10 times fast.
Lucian Happersberger, Lucian Happersberger, Lucian Happersberger.
That's pretty good.
That was also only 3.
I could not do that. Lucian Happersberger, Lucian Happersberger. No. They shared a deeply personal and complex relationship that unfolded against the backdrop of racism, homophobia, and societal pressures in the mid-20th century. Their love, though powerful, was shaped by the hostile world around them.
Yeah, wow.
Lucien was a Swiss man Baldwin met in the late 1940s in Paris. At the time, Baldwin was an emerging writer who had left the US due to racial and social tensions.
Oh, what do you mean? Like,
So Baldwin is a black man.
oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I get it.
Lucien was younger and came from a privileged background, yet they formed an intense bond.
Wow, I love this.
Yeah.
They're like different sides of the tracks.
Literally. Their relationship was romantic but also deeply complex. Baldwin and Lucien had a passionate relationship in Paris, and Lucien was one of Baldwin's most important lovers. Although Paris might have been a refuge, it was not a safe haven. Baldwin had fled the United States because of its violent racism, but even in Paris, being a black gay man was not without its challenges.
Of course.
While Paris was more accepting of expatriates, interracial queer relationships were still frowned upon.
Wait, so non-interracial queer relationships weren't?
Is Paris?
I know Paris is like very lax with love,
I don't know.
but wow, that's what I took that to mean. I was like, ooh.
And I need to do more research on that part. And Baldwin was often viewed with suspicion when he was in elite literary and artistic circles.
Because they thought he might be gay.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Despite their deep bond, Lucien ultimately married a woman, a decision that was influenced not only by personal factors, but also by societal expectations.
Of course.
The pressure to conform to heterosexual norms was immense, even in the artistic and bohemian communities. That surprises me.
Well, it doesn't, because it's like, you know, no matter where you come from and what your views are, people are going to take on what the majority is in the world, so you're not looked at differently.
Yeah, it's
Like,
true.
it doesn't matter where you come from, what your minority group is. What's the majority? If you're not that, it's not normal.
Yeah, true.
We've faced that forever, you know?
Just facing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike Lucien, Baldwin carried the compounded weight of being both black and queer in a world that rejected both identities.
Yeah, that sucks.
That's horrible. This affected how their relationship functioned in public versus private spaces. Baldwin often wrote about the struggles of being a black man in predominantly white spaces, and this dynamic likely influenced his relationship with Lucien.
He would just go around thinking he doesn't fit anywhere.
Yeah, it'd be so sad. Baldwin's literature frequently explores themes of forbidden love, racial barriers, and queer identity, ideas that were undoubtedly shaped by his relationship with Lucien. His novel, Giovanni's Room, in 1956, though centered on white characters, is often interpreted as a reflection of Baldwin's own experiences with interracial and same-sex love and the societal constraints that suffocated them.
Let's be real. The only reason he had white characters was because they were the ones that were going to be the most accepted at that time.
At that time, exactly.
Yeah.
He couldn't write about himself in a true form.
Do you see, like, up until even the early 2000s, you hardly saw interracial relationships on television?
Literally.
It's still like 2 African American people and 2 white people. It's only now, like the same as our LGBTQI plus community, that we are seeing such representation of like true relationships that are actually around us.
Yeah, exactly. I think my biggest thing of interracial couples was watching Hairspray, and I'm not sure whether that came out in 2003 or 2006, but it was still the 2000s. And that's such a powerful musical movie in the 60s and talking about the segregation and stuff and trying to like build that gap and saying, you know, no, we're black. Some of them might have been queer, we're here and we're here to stay and we just want basic human rights.
I'm pretty sure it was like a biopic movie or a documentary that I watched about the Beatles, and they were talking about literally they would go and perform these concerts and there was a giant fence down the middle and white people had to be on one side and black people had to be on the other, and there was no way that you could integrate. It was just ridiculous. Like, we all bleed the same. It's so
literally, it's so sad.
I can't believe that we are still going through this in different ways. Like,
yeah, it's history is just repeating itself in the most awful of ways at the moment.
Yeah, literally.
Despite everything, Lucien was by Baldwin's side when he died in 1987, showing how their love endured beyond societal pressures. Which I think that's so beautiful to me, considering, you know, like, he married a woman, he left that, but despite that, he still loved Baldwin with all his heart to be there by his deathbed.
Well, I think he would have understood. He just did that so he wasn't frowned upon, and like that didn't mean that his love for the other guy didn't waver.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like them against the world.
Literally. Baldwin had spent his life fighting against racism and homophobia, and his relationship with Lucien, though complicated, was a testament to love existing despite oppression.
Yeah.
Their story is one of passion, pain, and resilience in a world that sought to deny them the right to love freely. His bravery helped shape the LGBTQIA+ in literature forever.
It's so sad, but it's also so, I don't know what the word is, empowering.
Yeah.
To hear these stories that have shaped other people, and, you know, I love the ones that have a happy ending to some degree. Like, obviously it's not positive that they couldn't be themselves, but to have unwavering love like that, and despite
they still found a way back to each other no matter what,
despite society and social norms and pressures that we still face today, it's just like, you know what, you and me against the world.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
I could honestly go on and on about so many more influential gay men within history.
Oh, there's probably so
many. However, we would be here for way too long.
Well, maybe we'll do a part 2.
That's true. We may just have to do that.
I think so.
I think so. I really enjoyed doing this episode. I hope that you guys all learned something. I know that Jess definitely learned something.
I want to say I came into this episode completely like brain fried from my day. And I had a great time sitting here listening to the research that you've done and the storytelling.
Yeah. And
which is what we're about.
We're all about storytelling and education and love and acceptance and everything and where we've come from.
Love and acceptance first and foremost.
Yeah.
We love you all.
We do.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and there are many more like this to come because there is so much queer history and there is so much to learn.
I think so many stories left untold that I am very blessed and happy to be the ones to tell them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you guys loved episodes just like these ones, please be sure to follow us on social media at Justgaystuffpodcast.
Yeah. And also, if you're just joining us on this episode for the first time, go back through the catalogue. Go back to episodes we've done before because we've got a few. So
yeah. And if you have any specific topics that you guys want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments. We're always after more topics to discuss and talk about. So I think that kind of wraps us up for now.
Sure does. So until next time,
you better remember to stay gay, motherfuckers!
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about just gay stuff.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Justgaystuffpodcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.